Greetings, greetings, beautiful people. Thank you for tuning in to today's Movement Medicine Morsel. September being National Yoga Month, there's a little yogic theme of some of the lesser known teachings, and then always some philosophy in action, some movement, some breathing, and some settling for the nervous system, which we need in these churning times. So today I'm just going to give a little talk on the holistic system of what is called Ashtanga Yoga, which means eight-limbed yoga. No, it's not a brand name for one certain type of athletic yoga, but it's actually an umbrella term for the full-fledged whole system of yoga, having eight limbs, ashta eight, anga limbs. So, what are these eight limbs to create a holistic system? Well, we could spend hours and years on each one of them, but I'm going to try to make this very, very quick in the flavor of how many angels can you fit on the head of a pin. So last week we've been, and a little bit of this week, we've been looking at the yamas. That's the first limb. So these are observances that bring us into harmony with all of existence, with others, with civilization, with the planet. And the second limb is called niyamas. We haven't covered them yet, but we will be playing with them next week. So they're personal observances, a little bit more about working on oneself internally on all levels. Whereas remember in yoga, we're more than the physical body. That's part of us. We're also an energy body, an emotional body, a mental body, a wisdom body, and a bliss body. So all of these interweave together. And what's the third limb? The third limb we know the best, asana. But remember, that's not the first limb, it's the third limb. We're already setting ethical and moral alignment within so that when we come to asana and we start developing the power, the strength, the flexibility, we have a context in which we're practicing. The fourth limb is pranayama, which is often associated with breathing practices, but it's even more than breathing practices. Prana is vitality and life force energy. So we are learning how to boost our energy, how to settle our energy, how to balance our energy, basically adjust our energy so that it really is harmonious within us. And breathing is one of the ways that we balance our energy. Other ways are through visualization, through movement, and we'll talk about those a little bit more in the classes to come. And then we have pratyahara, which has to do with our sense organs. Sense organs are part of the brain that are always going out to gather information. And what we want to do to develop inner peace in yoga is we start to draw those sense organs back inside. We pull them away from the outside movements and we draw them inwards so they start to settle and go back in. And that creates a quietness inside. It helps us withdraw and also control our senses because they do pull us around a lot. So, all of this is to become quiet and settled inside. The next limb, and now we're moving into the inner limbs, and the next one is dharana or concentration, really being able to focus the mind on one thing quietly, not driving and being tense, but to quietly concentrate and be able to be one pointed and again, not moved around by a lot of stuff. The world has a lot of stuff to move us around. Wouldn't you agree? And then dharana can blossom into dhyana, which is meditation. So that's a consistent flow of concentration where you're just in a beautiful state of oneness. And then this oneness blossoms into even more of a flow of no separation and being immersed in bliss consciousness or universal consciousness. And this is the final limb, which is samadhi. Samadhi. So these limbs can work like a ladder where you start building 1, 2, 3 up to 8, but they also work like a wheel where they can all be growing simultaneously, or sometimes one develops a little bit more, another one catches up. So the image that's often used is the baby in utero. As the baby grows in utero, all of the limbs and the body and the organs develop harmoniously and become a human being. So there's today's little talk on what is Ashtanga Yoga. So when you're practicing yoga and you really want to feel the wholeness that is yoga, we want to give some thought to all of these practices. And we may find that some really resonate with us more than others, but I really want you to come away from this little talk at least with the appreciation that yoga is a multi-dimensional and holistic system. So, having said that, let's find out how it feels in the body, because it's one part to develop the mind, but holistically, we also want to cultivate and tend the body. And at these challenging times, COVID times, really important that we move our bodies and we care for our bodies. Helps us release stress, also helps us balance and turn within. So let's start with breathing. Breathing, breathing. The jewel in the crown of yoga. That's my personal opinion. And I love it and good for everything. So we're starting to sit nice and tall and just move around in the seat a little bit. So we bring awareness to how our hips feel, our buttocks in the chair, feel the texture of the chair. Is it wood? Is it upholstered? And look for a balance between the right and the left sit bone. We're also going to have some fun with our hips, just kind of move around and and balance out some of the mental yoga we've been doing today and this week. Same with the feet. Let's actually march in place. You can march standing up, you can march seated. Swing your arms, be tall, lift the knees as high or as low as you want. And you can even speed up and go for a little run. Whew. Breathing, breathing, breathing. Just breathe naturally here. Let this start to slow down a little bit, gradually slow down. Smaller, 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 smaller. And feel your feet in contact with the ground. Feel your sit bones. Zip up your energy through your beautiful vertical alignment, connecting to the universe, the stars, the sky, the sun above, and down to the earth. So there are these two energies that stretch in opposing directions to balance one another, and they also shine in from both directions. So we have this movement. Actually, that's fun. Let's do that with the arms. So the hands will be turning away. On the inhalation, we're going to press the energy down into the earth and up into the sky, stretching the spine. As we exhale, the energy is moving back to the center. And then when we inhale, we are pressing up to the sky and down to the earth. As we exhale, the sky and the earth are coming through us and they pass each other. And inhale, fill up and root down. Exhale, return to center. Keep traveling, reach to earth and sky. Exhale, coming back in. Inhale, traveling down and up. And exhale. Let's rest the hands over the low belly. Sometimes I never know what's going to happen. I'll say you made that happen. The energy came through that way. And now we want to maintain this beautiful connection between earth and sky and feel our breath. Really feel the breath in the pelvis, because when we move our hips in a little while, we want to really connect. All kinds of social and cultural reasons that hips can be a little bit orphaned or go into a fugue or not be felt because of the connection with genitals, sexuality, sensuality, keeping the hips quiet, but hips need to move. They like to move. And one of the rules I learned as a young dancer was if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. meaning that if you don't use a natural range of motion of your body, well, it's going to atrophy. So we don't want that to happen to our hips, no, or any part of us. Now, a little bit more about the breath here. We're feeling the belly expanding and gently drawing in, but put one hand on the back and imagine that the lower back expands out as the belly expands. So you have that sense of front and back, not just front. You can still imagine that even with the hands in front. Or if you like the hands in the back, one in front, one in back, please do it. Now the hands to the hips, because we also want to expand into the hips and the sides. So as you inhale, imagine that breath coming in and filling your hips, swirling through the hip sockets, creating space, especially for anyone who has compression or discomfort or stiffness in the hips. So this is a way of moving prana. We're moving prana with our minds. We're visualizing that breath is creating space and expanding through our hips and into the hip sockets. Pretty cool, right? Now, above and below. So as we inhale, there's an aspect of the belly being filled up and an aspect of the pelvic floor being filled down. So there's this expansion above and below, and exhale coming to the center. Inhale above and below, exhale center. Now, leaving the hands resting, eyes open or closed, whatever works better for you for calm and to connect inside. Imagine all those 6 directions, 3 pairs. As you inhale, front and back are expanding, and as you exhale, they're relaxing. The next pair, as you inhale, right and left, expanding right into the hip sockets and the sides of the pelvis, and exhale, relaxing. The third pair, expanding above into the waistline and down into the pelvic floor, and exhaling. Now gather them all together. That much awareness, that much drinking in of life force energy into this precious first dantian or elixir field, or the first 2 chakras, or just the first volume, the pelvic bowl and all of its contents, including the hip sockets. So now let's start to do some movements. We've already done one, which is rising up. So you want to feel your thighs, the backs of your thighs, the top maybe on the chair, and imagine that the pelvis has a little bit of lightness in it, as though it's filled with helium. So you're still grounded, you still feel the base, but there's a little bit of lightness rather than like a sack of potatoes. And this alone can create a shift in whether we feel compression in the hips or not. If this is your hip socket and this is grinding, you're creating a little bit of a pillow, a little bit, a little bit. So creating a bit of space in the hips. So that comes from our vertical alignment. Now we're going to rock the pelvis, and you can even use your hands here like I'm using. The upper body can come along for the ride. Don't freeze it, but the star of today's show is the movement of the pelvis. So exhale, we curl, we scoop the pelvis under as though the tailbone is going under the thighs. And then as we inhale, we rock that back. Exhale, scoop under so we get a rounding. And inhale, rock forward. Now you can see that my upper body just really wants to get in on this as well. But if you notice, I'm still focusing on initiating from the pelvis because that's our theme today. We can do movements from so many initiations. Just for a moment, try initiating just from your chest, a rounding of the upper back, an opening of the chest. Feels great. Do a couple of those. But notice that the highlight, the spotlight has now come onto the middle area, the middle volume. So now go back to focusing on the movement in the pelvis. And this is oiling the hips. We are stabilizing the thighs And we are rocking the pelvis around the thighs. Very nice. All right. What else have we got? We're going to do a little lift. So you're lifting up one hip. I've also lifted the heel on that foot to give me a bit more lift. Don't lean all the way out. Try to stay as upright as possible. You see how I've got a snaky curve here? And then we put that hip down. Other side. Lift the hip and bring it towards the armpit and down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, down. This is lovely for the muscles of the side of the waist. And you can see the pelvis is tipping, it's rocking in a different direction. Elevation of the hip and lowering. Nice and easy. You may find it's quite typical for people to find that lifting one hip is comfy and lifting the other hip maybe not so much. Okay. There we go. So we've got that. Excellent. Now we're going to circle. So you can have your hands on the pelvic bones, on the tops of the pelvic bones, just below the waist. And we're painting a circle. We're leaning to one buttock, rolling around to the front, leaning to the other buttock. So you might feel that one hip is unweighted as you shift your weight. Then you come to two hips. And close your eyes if you like. Let this be really delicious. And again, we're focusing on the movement of the pelvis because our hips don't often get a chance to shine on their own. And let's circle in the opposite direction. And we want to breathe smoothly, gently. Deep breathing is a little bit of a misnomer. Sometimes we think, I'm taking a deep breath, I'm getting more oxygen. That was very stressful. So, what we want is smooth breath without any obstacles, flowing at a nice, relaxed pace. It's not a shallow breath, but it's not a forced or stressed breath. We're looking for ease. And let that come to its natural finish. And now slide one hip forward on your chair. So you're starting a twist with the hips and then slide back. Slide the other hip forward. We're doing a little twist here and back. One hip forward and back. Inhale forward, exhale back. Inhale forward, twisting from the pelvis. Last one forward and back. Okay. And just wiggle a little bit, see how all of that feels. All right. Let's come and stand up. If you'd like to stand up with me, you can also play with repeating some of these exercises if you want to do them, or interpret them in the chair. When we're open and relaxed, there are all kinds of ways we can be flexible with what's happening and find new ways, find new solutions. So let's plant our feet and shift our weight from foot to foot. When we work with the hips, we want everything below knees, ankles, feet to be relaxed, and also everything above, chest, neck, shoulders, arms, because if any one of those parts freezes up, it's going to be harder to move the part we're focusing on. So let's step the feet open a little bit wider, maybe a bit wider than the shoulders. You may notice I've got my toes turned out. That actually makes my hips feel happier. You may find that your hips are happier when your legs are parallel. Everybody's a little bit different. So what we're looking for is not hard and fast rules, but ease. Ease and individualized, customized. So what we're going to do here is lunge and shift to one side. And I want you to notice that I'm sticking my butt out. I'm not trying to go straight up and down. I feel tension in my knee doing that. So just a gentle lean over and coming back up, and then repeating that on the other side. Oh, I just got a nice opening in my hip, a nice comfortable pop. Don't worry about sounds that your body makes. unless they hurt, because there's often little pockets of gases that are just being released. And here you can play a little bit with, what does it feel like if I go a little deeper? Is that good for me? Or is it better that I stay a little bit lighter? Now, remember, we're lifted up on top, going from side to side. And now let's stay lunging to one side. Let the back of the hand glide up the side of the body, around the armpit, throat, let the palm face the ear, and then reach out, and we're going to take a beautiful side stretch. And breathe. Here we're opening up some more space. Eyes can even look at the fingertips if you like. And then on the next inhalation, coming up, and exhale, leaning out to the other side. Stabilize your base first. Let that top hand brush. The back hand comes up the side of the body. In front of the armpit is where the palm turns towards the throat, reaches way out, and either look forward, or if you turned your head to look at the fingertips, if that feels good to you, please do that. And let yourself breathe. Let the position give you a little bit more room for breath to circulate. Next inhalation, come up, and we're going to take the hands directly behind the crease of the hips, so palms kind of supporting the sacrum. Feet can be about shoulder distance apart. Lightly press the palms forward. We want to stretch the groin area, but zip up inside. And please don't take your head back, because that becomes distracting. It becomes all about the neck, but we want to get into the hips. Today's hip day. And then on the exhale, just a little crease. You can even use karate chop hands and lightly press back so you get a clean fold here. Inhale, the hands guide the pelvis forward. Oh, so nice to stretch out those hip flexors. And let's do two more. Inhale, look for the space. It's not about how far you go in a back bend. It's about how much space you create and how calm and integrated you feel. All right. Now we have all the components for hip circles. So we'll do a medium hip circle and then a big hip circle. So soften the knees and just bounce a few times. I want you to check in with your ankles. You want the ankles to be supple, the knees to be supple. Pretend you've got a bungee cord so that you're not dropping and pushing, but you really have a bounce. Think of a bouncing ball. Think of being elastic, nice and elastic. Okay, so now we've got that feeling, just a little bit of bend in the knees, still suspended, hands on the hips, not at the waist, but just where you feel the tops of the pelvic bones is a good place, or wherever you want, wherever you want. You pick where you want. And we're going to swing the hips to one side, reach forward, and to the other side. Now, this is a medium hip circle. So if you look at the distance between your feet, around that size, around that size. The upper body just follows along, and you are very regal up above, very light, no grinding happening here. And circle the other way, keeping the knees a little bit soft so there's play in the knees, in the feet, and the ankles. You may even notice your weight shifting around the edges of your feet. That's a little bonus, bonus, bonus. Okay, we'll bring that to a close and step the feet open a little wider, but not super wide, maybe just a bit wider than the shoulders. And we're going to do some big hip circles here. Let's just try one out. So let's stick the tail out behind. Knees can be a bit soft. Really out to the side. Bending that knee is helpful. Both knees can be bent. One knee bent when you're coming to the side. And just experiment with circling your hips. The upper body is going to move a little bit more. And we're going to add some arms with this. So when your hips are back, your hands are crossed, you're looking at the earth. When you start to come around the front, you offer you offer up. And then as you exhale, you gather. And as you come around, you inhale and you offer. And exhale, you gather. Let's offer and then start going the other way. Rotate the hips the other way. As the hips come behind, you fold over across the arms. As you inhale, there's an opening and you can reach up to the sky, gathering as you exhale, opening, celebrating. And one more time, opening up and coming to standing. One last little pelvic hip circle. These are the tiniest. It's like stuff going on just inside here. Nice way to do it is to bring the feet together and to lift one heel. So the hip, the pelvic half that belongs to the foot, the leg with the lifted heel, is the one that's going to be doing some circling. So we want to imagine that this half of the pelvis is doing circles deep inside, deep inside. So these are small, contained. It helps to imagine that you're squeezing your inner thighs a little bit. Let's do a couple circles the other way. And of course, the rest of your body is light, and responsive. Okay, let's put that heel down. Lift the other heel. It might help you to have your hands here as well. Zip up, but soften down and start circling, small circles, half the pelvis, just this one half. The thighs are gently closing together. So that takes you into a bit more of a drawing in, very toning for the hips, especially the inner hips and the pelvic organs. Circling the other way, and then letting that come to an end. And then we're just going to shake it out, release everything. So a slowed version of this is you're bending one knee and straightening it. You're just letting your hips bounce from side to side, but you're suspended on top. And then you just speed it up a notch, speed it up a little bit more, and you end up with a very loose shimmy. And let this come into your whole body. The looser you are, the more it happens. If you're trying to tighten it, it ain't going to happen. So nice and loose, or instead do some shaking. We're releasing everything, releasing, releasing, releasing. And then one quick stretch out for the front of the hip. Bend one knee, step the other foot back, just to give yourself a little bit of a stretch here. Inhale the arms up. Interlace the fingers, reach up. You want to feel the stretch through the abdomen. And then relax the arms down, switch to the other side, just enough that you get this long line here. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, press up, enjoy. And exhale, release down. Okay, that's a wrap for today. I hope you feel looser and freer and enjoy everything that you do after this session, and bring some of your lightheartedness, your looseness, your playfulness, your breath, your posture to everything that you do. Many blessings, and write me and let me know how you liked today's session, and we'll see you next time. Blessings, blessings. Oops.